Today we are going to talk about the differences between a pop-up truck camper and a hard-sided truck camper.
Yep.
So we've owned both a four-wheel camper, it was a 2016 Hawk model four-wheel camper, and now we have a Northstar Liberty truck camper, which is a hard-sided camper. And a lot of people wonder, why would you buy a hard-sided camper over a soft-sided pop-up camper? And today we're going to share what we've learned about each of them and what we like better about one versus another, because really it comes down to what is important to you.
Yeah.
So the first thing is the most obvious: height.
This is very tall.
Hard-sided are very tall. So hard-sided obviously doesn't come back down. So when you're driving down the road, we're over 10 feet in total height. Whereas the four-wheel pop-up camper on the Tundra we had was overall height at 8 foot. So you're talking about a 2-foot difference in overall height between these two trucks. However, this truck does sit higher, so if we had the same truck, the height difference would be slightly less. But overall, the win is definitely pop-up camper for overall height, especially when traveling or when storing it. Mm-hmm. The next thing, which has a lot to do with height, again, is miles per gallon when you are driving. So if you have lower height profile, less wind drag. So pop-up camper, easy win on that one. Although I will say the difference in miles per gallon between the two is pretty minimal. We're talking 1 to 2 miles per gallon difference. So it's not as much as what people think it is going to be with the pop-up camper, because the overall pop-up camper still hangs over the sides of the truck and over the top, and they're just not aerodynamic. So you're really going to pay for the MPGs either way, but slightly better with the pop-up. The next is weight. So weight of the camper, the pop-up camper is less with the four-wheel camper than a hard-sided camper, but it's not as much as what you think it would be. You're probably talking 600-700 pounds depending on the configuration and options that you got. So slight win to the pop-up camper in the weight category, but not by a large margin, and it depends on what features you get and what stuff you put in it. Most of the camper weight difference is really in features. So the width is another one. So overall size, the four-wheel camper is 80 inches wide versus this Northstar Liberty camper is 84 inches wide. So you're talking 4-inch total width difference, 2 inches on each side. It is a slight advantage with the four-wheel camper, but not huge. So slight win for the pop-up camper. Interior space and feel, what do you think about the difference?
So I actually really liked the pop-up interior space and feel. The reason for that is because there's no upper cabs, so it's all open, it's very light.
Maybe we should say interior feel is a win for pop-up.
Yeah, I would
still
say it's a win for pop-up,
Okay.
because I do really like that about
Still a
it.
win for pop-up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's go to condensation. This is a huge issue with any small space when you have breathing people inside, especially at night when the temperatures are cold outside and you want it not as cold inside. You're gonna have condensation. So the four-wheel camper was terrible for condensation. It was awful. Even in the summertime, you'd have condensation. But if it was snowy outside or rainy outside or high humidity, it was ridiculous. I mean, we had our own towel just for drying it every day, and you had to dry the entire roof, basically, the sides of the camper, and it was huge condensation. Now what we did find to make condensation better with it was we left the roof vent cracked open, and then the little porthole access for the tie down cracked open, so you basically had airflow circulation from the lower to the upper part of the camper. But the downside to that is then we had airflow from the outside, so it was colder. In this one, we've left everything closed in like single digit temperatures outside, and
4 degrees
had just a little bit of moisture on the front wall of the camper where our heads are at the bed. So we wiped that up, but it's a lot easier to deal with than the four-wheel camper. Noise is the next category, what do you think about noise difference?
There's a huge difference, especially when we're in wind or rain. I don't think that we've been in hail yet, but you can actually sleep through it. In wind and rain in the pop-up camper, it was very, very noisy, and there was, like, the second night we had it, there was a hailstorm, and there was absolutely no sleeping. So we've been in pretty heavy winds for the last few weeks and haven't had any issues. I mean, there's a little bit of swaying, but no sound, which is nice.
So the four-wheel camper, people kind of downplay the noise factor, I think, with it. And we've had it in 30-plus mile-an-hour winds. And I will say the roof didn't blow off, so that's great. But, forget about sleeping. I mean, the sides of it are like a tent. It's just flapping in the breeze. And then the whole thing will be rocking. And just the noise and the sounds, I mean, it's not... You can't sleep. I can't sleep. I think you have to be, able to drug yourself in order to sleep in that thing. A lot of times when it's really windy, we've dropped the top with the four-wheel camper just to help, because it's stressful, realistically. It feels like it's going to come apart. Even though it doesn't, it feels like it will. And then as far as the noise otherwise in the rain, you basically have an aluminum roof. Yes. So it sounds like ting, 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 every drop. Ting, ting, ting. It's so noisy and it's amplified. It is the noisiest thing in the rain and wind. And then if there's any noise outside, because you basically are a tent on the top section. So there is no sound deadening whatsoever. So if somebody's talking, you can hear it. If a truck drives by, a car, anything.
Yeah, noise is an issue.
Animals, anything. It's crazy noisy inside. Definite win for hard-sided in the noise category as well. And the next would be insulation difference. So how do you think it feels between the two campers?
I wasn't in the four-wheel camper as much in the cold weather as you were. But I definitely think, especially because we realized how easy it is to close off the bedroom when we're not up there, it heats up really, really fast in here, and it typically stays warm in here. I mean, we were in it, it was 4 degrees one day, and it was warm inside.
Yeah, we could be at 60, 70 degrees inside, no problem. So the issue with the four-wheel camper is that it's made out of aluminum. Aluminum is a conductor, so you basically are fighting that constantly with the entire frame of it being aluminum and the roof being aluminum. It's basically like you're inside of a tin can and you're trying to keep it warm or cool. So it's a tough situation with Northstar camper. It's wooden framed and block foam insulated, so you end up with not having that transmission of heat and cool. The other thing is the floor is insulated in this, so once you do heat it up, it makes a big difference. With the four-wheel camper, forget about it. It is just always frigidly cold, and you're just having to deal with that. So definite win in insulation for hard-sided camper. As far as storage goes, what do you think between the storage?
So much more storage, not just because we have the upper cabs, but we actually have 2 wardrobes. We also have 2 hampers that run along the sides of the bed, so we can fit a ton of clothing in here, probably most of our closet. And then food supply, we can fit probably a month worth of canned and other goods, and then the refrigerator isn't quite as big, so it fits probably about a week worth of fresh food.
Yeah, so I think, when you have the pop up top, obviously you have no cabinetry on the top there, which gives it that really nice open feel, but then you lose a lot of storage potential with it. Yeah. The other issue we ran into with the four-wheel camper is that you can't really access everything without the top being up. So if you go in there and you want to get stuff out, you have to kind of choose where you put it in order to access it with the top up or down. And you have to deal with the top if you're gonna go and make lunch. You have to figure, are you gonna go in there on your knees and make your little lunch, or are you gonna pop up the roof when you want to stop and eat lunch? A little less convenient with that. So as far as cost goes between the two, this is interesting because four-wheel campers seems like it's cheaper because they start the price right around $20,000. However, no one buys the $20,000 option because they're terrible. They have no options whatsoever. They suck. The average person, when they go to walk out with their order, are going to be well over $30,000. And the interesting thing with it is that the $30,000+ configuration is with really basic, what I would consider super basic features. So stuff such as having the jacks for your camper, so you can actually put it on your vehicle and take it off. That's optional. Whereas on the Northstar, it comes with jacks. You know, it would seem like most of that stuff should be standard, and it's not. So if you want like a heater in your camper, it costs extra. And if you want a stove that doesn't suck, it costs extra. And it's not that it just costs extra. That
Substantially more.
Yeah, the cost of the upgrades is more than the cost of the parts. So you're not only paying for whatever would originally come in there, but you're paying additional cost that's more than the cost of the parts for the replacements. So they kind of rip you off pretty hardcore on that, which I'm not a fan of. But you know, in the end camper that you get with it is going to have less features than what a base level Northstar camper has. We basically de-optioned this camper, and it has more features than what you could option if you checked every box on the four-wheel camper. So I would say definite win for the hard-sided Northstar camper.
That's true, and we did actually, we de-optioned some options, but we did upgrade a few other options, like the stove and sink.
Yeah, and those were really cheap.
Yes,
we're talking
super
like
inexpensive.
a couple $100,
Yes.
you know, for those upgrades. So that was way worth it. And for a camper that's, you know, like mid $20,000 range versus well over 30, you're talking 10 grand difference between the campers. It's a really clear win for the Northstar camper. The next feature we want to talk about is mounts and jacks. So how you put the thing on and off. So once again, you get the jacks on this one standard, which is great. You have to pay for the other ones. But the four-wheel camper, it uses internal tie downs for the camper. So there's these turnbuckles, and they're really awkward to get to. They have these little hatch doors, and you have to kind of reach into it and at a weird angle lay upside down on your head and turn these guys. And so it's really difficult because you can't see if they're loose or tight, and so you have to check them on occasion, because there's been guys where the camper falls out because they didn't check it and it got loose and just fell out. And whereas this camper, the mounts are external, so it's easy to visual check it, and it's just easier to put them on, take them off. Mm-hmm. The jacks on this camper optionally are powered, so you can wireless control all of them all together. Immensely fast to jack it up, drive your truck in and out. The four-wheel camper is manual. You can either hand crank it or you can attach it to a drill. The problem with either of those options is you're only doing one leg at a time. So what in essence happens, you jack up one leg and then it's like a tripod on the other three legs. And so you jack up another leg, so the thing is all wobbling around as you're trying to slowly go up. So you go up a few inches on one, go up a few inches on the other, and you're just constantly making rounds around the camper until you get it up high enough to actually get your truck out or back in. And it is incredibly sketchy when it's on three legs and the thing is just rocking around and you're hoping that it doesn't fall down. And doing it with one person is super hard. With two people it's easier, but it's just not a simple process. Most people, four-wheel campers like me, ended up just leaving them on the truck. And mine was on the truck the entire time I owned it, which was about 9 months. And I had 160 nights sleeping in the camper, so it got a lot of use. So it's one of those things, four-wheel camper makes better sense, in my opinion, if you leave it on and don't plan to take it off. So as far as the windows go, what do you think about the windows?
Is the acrylic windows they don't get cold the way that the other windows do, and then you can open them, vent them, and they have screens. It's really nice when we're cooking because I can open the one behind the stove and it vents right out the top.
Yeah.
In the four-wheel camper, They were really functional. The ones in the bedroom were nice when it was hot because you could open them up and have a breeze cross the bed.
So that was in the material Popup.
Yeah.
And you would unvelcro them. So they're not really windows, they were just Velcro covers,
True.
basically.
But the actual windows themselves sat down at the dinette, so your back was against them.
Yeah, they're behind you. They're like at this height.
You couldn't really see anything out of them.
So if you removed the
down.
cushions and you like bent over, you could look out the window at like waist level, but it wasn't practical
awkward.
to
I
actually
didn't really enjoy them.
look out of them. And I wish they wouldn't put them in at all because they're pointless in my opinion. So it's just a way that more heat and cool came out of the thing. And it
more tent style with the windows.
It didn't make any sense with the lower windows, and that was kind of a huge thing because the inside, if you're just sitting inside, you know, it's rainy day, whatever, and you want to just enjoy being inside, but there's a beautiful view outside. You couldn't see outside
unless you were standing.
You had to stand up, and you had to have the upper Velcro window down in order to see out. Otherwise, you're in this little cave.
Yeah, I didn't really enjoy it.
Whereas with this camper, the windows are massive and they're right next to the dinette, the kitchen, so you can easily look out. And if you're sitting here, you can look either way in the camper and you get amazing views you can enjoy, which is super nice, not only for the views, but just having natural light come in so you don't feel like you're trapped in this weird space. So definite win for the hard side camper in the windows view category. Now, what about the shower and toilets?
Probably my favorite part of a camper. So the 4-wheel camper, obviously
you can option
it with the toilet. I don't know if the
shower
was the shower option.
But it was like a curtain thing, and you have to like set it all up, and you attach the curtain to the ceiling, and you run the hose off of the sink area.
So we opted for the exterior shower, which was nice.
Better than nothing.
Right. It's so much better than nothing. And we did get a shower tent because we discovered that breezes were quite substantial when you're showering outside.
Yeah.
But I do have to say, having an interior shower, especially traveling in the cold time, is really nice because we can pump the heat up to like 70, close off the bedroom, make it just this little hot bubble, and then get nice and clean. And it's amazing. And having an interior toilet is super nice because, well, I don't really like going outside in the middle of the night, especially when it's 4 degrees.
Yeah. So inside, it makes a huge difference because if you want to shower like in the city, you can do that. You can't exactly set up an exterior shower tent, you know, and take a shower outside.
It's super awkward.
Except for maybe when you're out in nature. So it's way more flexible. The inside shower on the 4-wheel camper is hokey, and you have this wet curtain. You gotta figure out what to do with it.
And it sits under the dinette, so your feet kind of... I don't know, because I know our pan doesn't dry instantly. I can't imagine that the 4-wheel camper would dry instantly, so you're kind of...
Yeah, you have this space that's wet, so what do you do with it, you know, when you're done with your shower? It's just awkward. It's okay to pinch, but it's not something that if you're using it on the regular, that's going to be real enjoyable. It's more of a cumbersome thing. So I would give the total win to the Northstar camper in this bathroom toilet situation. Now, as far as the sink, stove, kitchen situation, now we upgraded the 4-wheel camper to have its glass top, nicest, you know, both sink and stove, but they're not the same as this one. What do you think about the difference?
So I like the new one. So the original Dometic that we had, and I believe 4-wheel camper is still running that Dometic. The stove is not wide enough for both pans. You can get a pan and a half. So if you want to make something with like a stir fry with a rice, you have to cook the rice, put it off to the side, and then cook the stir fry, which is super frustrating. This is a larger Dometic with the glass top, and it actually fits both at the same time. So that's phenomenal. I can actually cook dinner all at the same time. And then the sink is larger than the old one, so we can actually fit the pans in it. The other one was kind of awkward. I think
it had a weird faucet.
It did.
It was like this tiny little faucet you pick up and you try to get stuff underneath of it.
Turn it outward so that you can use it. But yeah, it's too short. So I do like having the larger faucet. I did like the 4-wheel camper had a bigger countertop. So that was nice about prep, but we opted to make a smaller kitchen to be a little bit more ninja.
Well,
so
and we use this sometimes.
That's
too,
true. I do use the
dinette area.
dinette to prep.
So that helps. But I would say overall, give
Huge
it to
win.
the, yeah.
Oh, huge win in
the
the
hard-sided. So, you know, I think what it comes down to between the Popup and a hard-sided camper is really how you're going to use it. Now, there's people that full-time travel in both types of campers. However, I would say that if you're going to travel, and especially in rougher weather where it's cold or rainy and on a regular basis, that hard-sided camper is just nicer to live with, period. Like, there's no contest with that. It's just more comfortable. Now, if you are coming from tent camping, like what I had been with roof tents and sleeping inside, you know, vehicles while we traveled, and you go to a four-wheel camper, it's going to seem really luxurious and amazing. But, you know, when I bought that camper originally, I was planning on only using it for a week trip here and there. I wasn't planning to use it as much as I ended up using it because I just loved the ability to go travel, and it was incredible, and I was using it all the time. And then you start really seeing the downsides to it, and then you start realizing that maybe it's not the best for that style of travel. So there are some trade-offs with a hard-sided camper being a little bit taller and just a little bit more difficult in that area.
Getting to the trees.
Yeah, when you're in tight spaces, you have to deal with that, but the advantages of it from comfort and livability standpoint, definite win.
Yes.
Definite win. And I would say if you're going to use a four-wheel camper in the summer times and you want to travel in, you know, kind of nicer weather times, that the four-wheel camper is great. If you're a really hardcore person that's used to tenting it and you want to live full-time in that, you can absolutely do it. There's no question about it. It's just it's not as nice as this guy. So you really have to take the list of pros and cons and decide what is most important to you. And if you've owned either of these, we'd love to hear your comments. Post up and share what your experiences are and what you like or don't like about them. And it's kind of interesting because everybody has different feedback and opinions with it. So if there's anything that we missed, share that as well. We'd love to hear that. And if you have any questions, we'll be glad to answer anything that we have experienced between them and help you guys out. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned. We have some cool stuff coming up with an upcoming trip that we'll be sharing that's it's pretty crazy. If you want to see how hardcore you can take a hard-sided camper, we'll be showing you that. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
What was your experience being the videographer on this latest episode?
I would get a tripod. I learned a lot. That was great.
What was your favorite part?
Spending time with both you.
Aw, that's so sweet.
We'll shoot you with the Nerf gun later.
Okay. That's fair.
Oh,